which is food addiction. So Dr. Tro has published research on binge eating and food addiction and the use of therapeutic ketogenic diets and intermittent fasting, to treat that. So please welcome to the stage the very brilliant, talented Dr. Tro.
Hi guys, we're going to be talking about food addiction today. This is so cheesy, but we'll do a show of hands. Who's heard of the term food addiction, carb addiction, sugar addiction, right? Everybody's heard of it, right? Okay, put your hands down. Who's a doctor in the crowd right now? Have you ever learned about food addiction in medical school? Never, right? Okay, so everybody knows about it. We all know what it is. People say, oh my God, I have sugar cravings. Companies say once you pop, you can't stop. And other companies say you can't. I bet you just can't have one. And people say it all the time. I feel like my cravings are just so intense, like I can't just quit. But the medical community doesn't really know too much about food addiction, right? They don't even agree upon if it exists or not. Some of them question, is it a real thing? Can you be addicted to something you need? Can you be addicted to food? We need food to survive. It's not alcohol. It's not heroin, right? Can it be the same thing? So there's a lot of questions. And for that reason, in that confusion, really the processed food companies have taken advantage, and they've created a recurring revenue stream in us. So I want you to walk away with today an idea of what food addiction is, and most importantly, food addiction and obesity are not exactly the same. So weight loss, right, typical weight loss without any relationships issues with food, without any emotional issues with food, without any psychological issues with food, you can give that person a nutrition plan, right? You can just say, hey, it's time for you to lose weight. They have a good relationship with food. You can give them a nutrition plan. Here's page 4. Here's the Verda's protocol. Here's Dr. Tro's protocol. Here's an intermittent fasting protocol from Cynthia Thurlow. You can give them a nutritional plan. Do the Keto Savage Cut program, right? But if somebody has issues related to food, right, you have to be very careful. If they have a disordered relationship to food, you do not want to give them a nutritional program. You want to give them a behavioral program, because there are emotional, psychological, and there's issues related to food that have nothing to do with nutrition that need to be addressed. So it's important to understand obesity can often be intertwined with food addiction, but they're not exactly the same thing, and I'm going to highlight that here today. These are my disclosures. I lost 150 pounds with low carb, so I favor low carb. I'm the Low Carb MD podcast guy. My wife who's right here. I want to thank her, Rosette. She was instrumental in me losing 150 pounds. She has a food company, so I'm biased. So what you're going to hear from me is biased, but hopefully I can give you as much impartial clinical experience that helps guide you, your life, the life of your loved ones, and any people you take care of. I work with a team. I have 2 health coaches that are probably somewhere here. Amy Igus, our program director, Brian Wiley. Each one of us have lost weight and kept it off. I mean, if you haven't heard Amy's story, it's just amazing. I really, suggest you go read her blog posts. And Brian, 100 pounds off for 15 years doing low carb. We call him the OG low carb because he really is the OG low carb. So I work with a team. We hired a new doctor who's on the board for the SMHP, Dr. Laura Buchanan. So it's not just Dr. Tro. We have other people behind us. Natalie, our branding director's here, and we have our office managers. We have medical assistants. I mean, we have a team. So nothing I'm saying to you here was learned alone. Just very quickly, our mission at our practice is basically to provide unmatched medical care. We have real-time touch points. We have an app. We have communities, Zoom meetings. It's a different, remotely monitored equipment, immediate biofeedback. What we do in our clinic is a little bit different. Maybe you could call it Baby Verta with a heart, not that they don't have a heart, but we've done this, we've lived it, we've got skin in the game. Our vision is really to end diabetes and obesity and end metabolic disease. And we're human first. We put patients first. We're very much in support of patients doing what they see fit in their lives. So that's our practice. So let's talk about food addiction. I'm not going to get too much into the screening of it. I'm not going to get into too much how you diagnose it. It's not even commonly agreed upon. The commonly agreed upon term right now that's in the DSM is binge eating. But basically, I'll give you my definition. Food addiction is a disordered relationship to food. Okay? It's often associated with shame and guilt. There's oftentimes a loss of control and binging. And it's oftentimes coupled with an intense psychological distress and oftentimes a disruption of their social lives, right? They want to hide food, hide wrappers, not eat in front of other people, not eat all day and then come home and lose control late at night. These are the hallmarks of what food addiction looks like. There's many ways of diagnosing it. It's not really clear. Jen Unwin's group uses Uncupped. Bitten-Johnson group has a different way of screening it. The Yale system where I trained uses the Yale Food Addiction Scale. There's the binge eating scale. But bottom line is it's not commonly agreed upon. There's lots of ways to diagnose it. But as everybody showed here, you all raised your hands, you know it exists. People know it exists. We have these fancy screening tools, but people will come and tell you, I'm addicted to sugar. I can't stop eating. I'm a chocoholic. Who's ever heard I'm a chocoholic, right? So people know how to self-diagnose this. It's not, we don't have, as doctors, we try to make it fancy. It doesn't need to be. But for the sake of research and science, we'll have to make it fancy. But I'll skip all that today. What I want you to understand is those who have food addiction who end up becoming obese, remember, some may get anorexia, some may get bulimia, some may get exercise bulimia, right? So not everybody with food addiction will get obesity, but those who do get obesity are often the people who yo-yo diet. They're often the people who find themselves otherwise successful in their lives but unable to tackle food. They're oftentimes hiding food, hiding wrappers, sneaking food, not eating in front of other people, avoiding social situations around food. Raise your hands if you have any of those right now. Just raise your hands. Yeah, like half the hand went up, right? Half the audience went up. So let's understand the trap that these people are in. These are a very vulnerable population, and I'm going to talk about that. Patients who suffer from obesity and or food addiction oftentimes blame themselves, right? Why haven't you lost weight? They would ask me. I was 350 pounds. I trained in the Yale system. They say, why didn't you count your calories? Why didn't you, the leading cardiologists, the leading endocrinologists. And they basically say to me, why didn't you count your calories? They said, maybe you should just exercise. Literally in my cap and gown at med school, I was in the gym, okay, that I set up and my wife's nodding her head because I set up the gym at our medical school. That's how much I love to exercise. So that wasn't my issue, right? So, but these people tend to blame themselves, so we have to be very careful. And here's the other problem. The corporate medical wellness messaging right now enforces that belief that when they succeed, right, when they did that diet that one time and lost weight, well, that was their success because they counted their calories. They used their central planning to focus on eating less. And when they failed, it was because of their lack of discipline and their lack of willpower and their lack of focus that did it. They should have counted harder, right? So the messaging around what's going wrong is not exactly on point with what's actually going wrong, right? The messaging is you need willpower and discipline, right? And obesity is related to lack of willpower and lack of discipline, and that's not exactly true. It's partially true, but not exactly true. And yo-yo dieters are more likely to fall for that blame yourself, messaging since they've had several successful attempts Just raise your hands if you've done like 10 diets. 10 diets? 20 diets? 50 diets? Every Monday's a new diet? Every Monday's, who's that? I'm going to do the new diet on Monday? You got your hand raised, right? So the problem is when you fail, succeed, fail, succeed, fail, succeed, or just fail, 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 right? You blame yourself. Right? You blame yourself. And I keep falling off the wagon. Last time I counted, my macros perfectly, that's what did it. It just wasn't, I just didn't want it enough. It's, maybe this is how I am, right? They're taking their identity and their food addiction and they're identifying with it, right? And what they need to understand is it may not be the case, right? It may be the case that they need a little more responsibility and attention, but not in the way they think. So we're going to understand this trap, They need to actually understand, they need more insight into what it is they're facing. What is food addiction? What is this drive to eat? How powerful is it? How manipulative is it? What can it do? And I'm going to make the case that food addiction can actually manipulate your emotions, manipulate your thoughts, manipulate how you advocate for yourself, manipulate your outlook, and even manipulate your logic. And the reason why I can make that case is it's done it to me and I've noticed it, right? So I can best, I think, relay it. And I'll use my own personal experience to relay that to you. So they don't need a nutritional plan, they need insight. People with food addiction don't need count your calories, do a protein-sparing modified fast, eat this many hours, eat this many points, if this many macros. They don't need that. Take this allergy pill, take the berberine supplement. That's not what they need. They need to fix their relationship to food. And they need a provider who understands how powerful it is, the forces that they're dealing with, right, and what they're exactly up against. So I'm going to educate you as best as I can on that now. So what happens is when they try to diet again and again, when they try to do nutritional plans, what happens? I'm sure our keto savage tell you when you cut, man, you get hungry, right? And at that end, I mean, you gain weight just looking at food, right? And he's laughing because he knows it's true, right? So when you lose weight, right, when you're in an energy deficit, you get hungry, you get cravings, and sometimes you may even get feelings of deprivation. Why can everybody else eat that, right? Why is it that everybody else can eat that and I can't? Right? So if we don't navigate these things and help them understand what they're up against, they're just going to fail again. Now you're part of the problem. So most patients are not prepared to deal with this hunger, and they don't know how to manage social situations, parties, business meetings. They don't know how to manage these things. They don't know what to do when they go on vacation, right? And so what happens? After vacation, I just couldn't get back on the wagon. How many times have we heard that one? After vacation, I couldn't get back on the wagon, right? Monday came and I just couldn't do it, right? Or I went to the gym and they had pizza, right? Whose gym has pizza, right? Does somebody's gym have pizza? Yeah, right? They do that, right? They do that for a reason, right? There's a reason why they have pizza and bagels. So given patients are hungry, they have intense cravings, they may feel deprived, and they're not prepared to manage social situations, holidays, vacations, what happens? They inevitably fail, and now you're a part of the process. You're a part of the problem, right? So the failure then results in what? Whose fault is it? It's been my fault my whole life. I don't have the willpower. I don't have the discipline, right? And so now they're trapped. And so here is the obesity trap, okay? This is basically, let's see, where's the pointer here? How do I use the laser pointer? The top one? Let's see. Okay, so it typically starts with weight gain, right? Then just tell me if you relate to this at all. You could be vocal, I don't care. And you gain weight, and then you're like, okay, let me try another diet, right? You try another diet, you get hunger cravings, you feel crappy, you feel deprived. Why can't I eat this? You don't know what to do at your grandma's house. You don't know what to do on vacation. Grandma's such a sabotager, right? Right? Grandma's such a, and then holidays, right? You don't know what to do. You don't know how to manage these things, and so what happens? You lose control and you binge, right? Or you lose control and you eat in a way that you didn't want to. And then what happens? It's my fault, you feel guilt, shame. So this is where things spread off. Well, if you're like, if you don't have that intense shame and guilt, if you don't say, you don't feel powerless, if you're not like, screw it, I'm just gonna, if you don't do the F-its, right? And you just get back right on track, well, you probably don't have food addiction. It means like, hey, you just decided to have a little thing and now you're back on track, right? But if you're that person who's got intense shame and guilt, excessive self-blame, you know, all or none thinking, where you're like, you know what, I'm just going to eat this way for the rest of the weekend, and then, you know, I'll start again Monday, and then Monday never comes, right? That's learned helplessness. That's all or none thinking. That's part of the addiction process. And then really what's happening here is you're just not aware of what you're up against, and you're focusing on willpower. You're focusing on, you know, the algae pills or the counting calories or whatever it is you're focusing on, right? You're focusing on something else, right? That's not exactly addressing what it is you need to address. And it could be anything. It could be carb counting. It could, I mean, you know, it breaks all diets, right? Food addiction breaks all diets. And then what happens is you can't sustain behavior change. You cannot implement in your life something that's sustainable. And so then you're back to weight gain, right? Who relates to this? Just, did I make a compelling case, right? So, okay. I just wanted to make sure, because this is some complex stuff. It took me a long time to do this. So this is the internal layer of control, what I just described. This is on the inside of the person. But what about outside of the person? What about the external layers, right, that are controlling a person and keeping them stuck, right? And this is where it gets, you know, that weight gain comes, and what happens? You go to personal trainers who just don't understand what you're dealing with, right? And I'm not talking about you because I know you do. We've had, you know, you know the psychology real well. I know firsthand, but you know personal trainers can be terrible, terrible, you know, places because they're giving a nutritional program for somebody who needs a behavioral program, right? And this is the problem. It's not matching up the message with the client or the patient. And then you have a profiteering supplement industry, right? You may need, you know, some berberine. You may need some magnesium. I'm very favorable on some supplements, but, you know, the question is it addressing food addiction or your relationship to food? No, right? No. So there's wellness, you know, practitioners, ignorant doctors, dogmatic dietitians, right, that all foster you, that keep you stuck. And ultimately, if you look, it's, you know, the processed food companies are happy. They even tell you, once you pop, you can't stop, right? I bet you just can't have one, right? They are literally telling you what they're doing, keeping you stuck in the trap. So you gain weight, right? So this is that external, those external factors that keep you trapped. And there's a whole nother layer of external factors that keep you trapped, right, in this obesity trap. You know, we've had several people allude to it. Societal norms, right? We come home, we eat dinner with our family. You know, cultural traditions, and you know, we always make certain dishes at certain holidays, certain times of the day, right? And you know, then there's internal issues like habits and conditioning, right? Your own habits, your own conditioning. You eat at this time. You eat at lunch, right? The things that you do, and social triggers and sabotagers. You know, Rosette, I love you. You know, but people who make really, really delicious foods in the home, right? Even if it's low carb. Right? So, and then ultimately, this is the biggest one that really needs respect, really paid attention to. Sleep and mental health are so critical. You cannot make behavior change if you're dealing with anxiety. If you're dealing with anxiety and depression, insomnia, if you're dealing with these things, you will have an insatiable appetite. Okay? You are feeding a never-ending problem. Right? The anxiety and depression will not go away with food. So mental health is so critically related to this, and ultimately costs and resources. Do you have the ability to afford an expensive, bald-headed, you know, Twitter bully, you know, to help you with this stuff? So ultimately, resources and costs are a factor that we need to consider. So these are the systems of control. So these keep people trapped. And what I want you to understand is that, you know, this food addiction can fundamentally manipulate your emotions, your logic, your outlook, your self-advocacy, and your mentality. That's how powerful it is, and this is why we shouldn't give a nutritional message for something that needs behavioral health. And I'm going to compare eating food and our health to other things we advocate for, like our car and our money. Okay? These are other systems that we have in place, other things that we advocate for, and I'm going to juxtapose how we treat these differently with the 5 dimensions that I basically showed you. I'm going to walk you through each one of these. I'm going to juxtapose how different they are, how we emote when it comes to food. My wife, who's here in the audience, Rosette, I'm calling you out again and again. she would say to me, I was 350 pounds, I'd want to, lose weight desperately, I'd be eating, I don't know, say pizza or something, bagels, whatever, right? And she'd say, maybe you shouldn't eat that. Now, how do you think I felt? Just say an emotion, just say it out loud. How do you think? Don't eat that as you're about to eat a pizza. How would you feel? Angry, right? Agitated, right? I listed them all here. How about defiant? Don't tell me what to do, right? I know I'm a grown man, I know what I'm doing. Oppositionally defiant, stubborn, agitated. Well, what happens next when I have anger, agitation, oppositional defiance, stubbornness, right? What happens next? I eat the food. My wife will tell you I did it for many years, right? Now, if my wife came to me and said, hey, husband, I think you have a flat tire, don't drive just yet, would I tell her, I'm a grown man, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing, I can drive if I want to? I wouldn't do that. I'd say, wow, thank you, you found out I had a flat tire. Right? And I'd feel love and support, right? If she came and said, I was looking at the bank account, before you buy another case of keto bricks, please there's something wrong with the bank account because, I just got to check it out before you spend anything, I need you to take a look at it. I wouldn't say, screw you, I'm going to buy my bricks right now, I wouldn't do that, So I would feel love and support. So, and if you see what happens next, with love and support, you then fix the problem. Thank you for letting me know. Let me look into this. I'm going to get it figured out. I'm going to look into what it is, right? But when I feel anger and agitated, right, what happens is I don't change those behaviors that I actually want to change, right? So fundamentally, right, my emotions have been manipulated when it comes to food and health, right? And the next thing, follow the money. What happens next? I'm angry, agitated, oppositionally defiant, and I identify with those things, and I maintain those behaviors, right? And this is food addiction, and you need to recognize it. And but fundamentally, would a nutrition program explain the difference between emotions, between how you advocate for your car and your money, and how you deal with food? If I tell somebody hey, why are your emotions different, and will eating 30 grams of carbs tell you why? The answer is no, right? So you have to understand that a nutritional program doesn't explain these differences. And I'm just going to go down the line here. I'm going to be mindful of time. Your logic and outlook can be manipulated. My wife, we have 3 kids. I would eat my kids' leftovers. And I would say I was 350 pounds. I desperately wanted to lose weight. And I would say, we shouldn't waste food. Who's done the clean plate? Who's part of the clean plate club? Everybody raising their hands, right? So are we like some noble person who's eating because we care about world hunger? Is that what's happening here? No, right? We're not eating because, I'm not thinking about donating to a food pantry, right? So my logic is sound. We shouldn't waste food. Food waste is a terrible thing, right? James Connolly was here yesterday. He's talked about food waste. I know he's very passionate about food waste. But yeah, it's true. We shouldn't waste food. But there's something manipulating my logic and making me do what? What happens next when I say we shouldn't waste food? I maintain the behaviors I actually want to change, right? So just think about this for a second and then follow that logic. See how the logic can be manipulated. Who's done the, I've been on plan for so long, I deserve a treat, right? Who's done that, right? And how about I've been off plan, a little bit more won't hurt, right? How can they both be true? Right? Think about it. If you've been off plan, you should get back on plan right now. Right? They both can't be true. So there's a logic manipulation that's happening. Right? And the result is you're maintaining a behavior you actually want to change. So the logic can fundamentally be manipulated. Right? And if you look, you wouldn't say, I've been driving so well, let me get a flat tire. I deserve a flat tire. Or I deserve to, Well, who's done this, right? Who's done this logic, right? I've been off plan. Let me keep eating this way. I'll just, have dessert. I'll have this. I'll have that. I'll start again Monday, right? In your car, has anybody gotten a flat tire and said, you know what? Let me just stab my other tire, smash my windows. I'll call the mechanic on Monday. And then Monday comes and you're driving around for another month with the deadbeat car, with a bunch of broken windows. Has that ever happened to anybody here? No, right? So fundamentally, right, you don't say, I've gotten so many speeding tickets, I might as well speed more. We don't do that. And with our money, it's not like, I've been a little off with the books. I might as well, go to the ATM, make it rain, and I'll go on a shopping spree, and then I'll call the accountant or file for bankruptcy on Monday. We just don't do that. So fundamentally, our outlook and our logic have been manipulated, and this is a hallmark of food addiction, and a nutritional program will not help this. So I'm going to blow through these very quickly. Our cars have a very high degree of self-efficacy, advocacy. Your cars can literally drive themselves when you're distracted. They have real-time alerts. They have systems in place, AAA to call, community and support. And look, here's the thing. If you got a flat tire, you reached out for help, and you called AAA and said, I need help, I have a flat tire, and they said to you, listen, you're actually a terrible driver. You need to pump more points of air than you let out, and if you let out too much, there'll be a deficit, and because of the deficit, that's what's causing the flat tire. Like, if you got that advice, what would you do? Screw you, I need better help. But what do? We accept that advice when it comes to obesity management, and so when you have food addiction, this is not acceptable, right? It's not acceptable to give them a nutritional program for a behavioral problem. Same thing with money. You call I think there's something wrong with my bank account. You go to the teller, and you're a terrible spender, they tell you. You need to make more than you earn, and then your bank account will be fine, right? That's essentially our diet industry right now, right? So the problem is we're not prepared when it comes to food and health what to do when our willpower fades. We need systems, right? We need systems. We can't keep going back to what didn't work, right? And we can't just make ourselves hungry and deprived and not address the root cause. Is there depression? Is there anxiety? Is there emotional issues? Is there a framework that needs to be uncovered here? And we can't just accept eat less and move more, and a nutritional program won't work. And ultimately, tenacity. Look at your cars. You get a flat tire, you fix it now. You don't wait. And the end result is your health of your car is improved. Your bank account has something wrong with it, you fix it right now, you don't wait, and your financial situation is improved. But we do this, screw it up, keep going off plan, and I'll start again next week. And next week never comes. And this is part of food addiction, that shame and blame cycle that it's associated with, right? You cannot give these people a nutritional plan, I beg you, right? They need community and support, they need insight, they need education. So bottom line, my case here is that food addiction can fundamentally manipulate emotions, logic, outlook, self-advocacy, and mentality. And the problem is you need food to survive, which makes it even harder than heroin, harder than cigarettes, and harder than alcohol, because you have to find a way to deal with it. And even to make it harder than that, because you need it to survive, your grandma's going to be pushing it on you twice a year, right? Which makes it even, it's going to make it hard. Granddad, sorry, will be equal opportunity. But the point here is that to make matters worse, most people with severe obesity are nutritionally depleted. Okay, so meaning they actually need food. They need more food, right? So this is a severe problem. If you give somebody with severe obesity and food addiction a nutritional plan, you're setting them up to fail. And really, you have to build systems or defenses, not willpower. You need to make them aware that, hey, you're dealing with something highly manipulative. It's going to change your emotions. It's going to change your outlook. It's going to change your mentality, your advocacy. And you need to prepare. You need to prepare for that. And you need to understand, that your self-advocacy is manipulated. And you need a sponsor. And you need somebody unbiased to share your troubles with. And you need a community that can help you. The addiction community has done this so well with the AA model, the community and support aspect. But when it comes to food, we need to understand we need systems to block out the constant assault that's on your desire to lose weight, right? Everybody wants you to eat more. The restaurant down the street, the fruit companies, grandma, everybody wants you to eat more, right? And ultimately, yes, impulse control is a small part to play, but if something blows through everything, you need to have that tenacity to say, what was it? Okay, and can I work with a team to figure out how to improve on this, right? Can I talk this out with somebody and figure out what can I do to make this better, right? I'm going to blow through this because I got 1 minute left, but bottom line, I'm going to talk about the headings. Key components to managing food addiction is education and counseling, unbiased feedback, giving them tools to make them help. Remember, they're going to be plagued by shame and guilt. So you're going to have to establish that rapport, get them to share their vulnerabilities with you so you can, and this is where biofeedback comes into play. We have our friends Keto Mojo here, right? And if their ketones are low, hey, what's going on? Can we help you? Can we see what's going on? If their CGM is more variable than it was before, can we say, hey, we noticed something happened. Can we talk about it? Can we use these tools to give them feedback, and can we establish rapport and community so they know they can grow in a safe way? We're not just taking their food away and telling them do better, right? And you need to build that tenacity and resilience because ultimately this isn't going away, right? So, and that's the truth of it. We cannot turn a switch and turn the hunger signal off. If we could, half of this room probably wouldn't be here, right? If we could just flick a switch and turn the hunger signal off, we wouldn't be here. So this is not going away. It has to be learned to manage. We have to recognize it and learn to manage it. Don't be perfect, just get better. That's so critical. And the thing that I want you to understand is respect the brain's ability to seek out food. It will literally manipulate any process you have, emotions, logic, outlook, self-advocacy, to get food under any diet. That's what it's programmed to do. Okay? So we have to learn to deal with it and reconcile the psychology and the emotions that this society has fostered when it comes to food and food relationships. The first step is building that awareness. We start by taking an honest self-assessment, the problem foods, the problem situations, the problem people, places, and times, right? And then we work with people to make those vulnerabilities easy for them so that they can start on their intended lifestyle journeys. I'm going to blow through the rest of these because I'm late on time. But bottom line, avoid the shame and blame spirals. And that's it. I'm going to blow through these because you can find them on our app or our website. Once you conquered the emotions, you can basically go through the lifestyle plan. If you notice, everybody's pretty much said these. Reduce carbs, address meal frequency, don't add extra fats, exercise, consider either fasting or protein-sparing modified fast, address mental health and sleep. These are critical to the nutritional plan. But the behavioral plan sometimes has to come first. We do this every day.